When you hear that 72% of Americans think electric vehicles, EVs, are just too expensive, it makes you wonder, do they have a point? I think we can all agree that the world is shifting toward cleaner energy and greener tech. But when the majority of people are still hesitant about EVs because of the cost, there's something deeper going on. In today's video, we're going to dive into why so many Americans believe electric cars are overpriced, whether or not that's a fair assessment, and what the future holds for EVs. If you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. So the average cost of an electric vehicle in 2024 sits at around $44,167. That's a 9% drop from last year, which sounds great at first. But here's the kicker. Most gas-powered cars are still cheaper, costing about $45,000 or less. When you stack those numbers side by side, it's easy to see why many Americans feel like EVs are out of reach. People look at those price tags and immediately think, why pay more for something that still has limitations, like charging issues or range anxiety? It's a valid concern. The upfront cost alone makes a lot of folks hesitate, even if they might save money on fuel or maintenance down the line. We've grown used to cars being a certain price, and when something disrupts that balance, no matter how good the long-term benefits might be, it can feel like a risk. Let's talk about what drives that perception of high costs. First off, initial purchase price. This is the biggest hurdle for buyers. Many EVs today, especially the well-known brands, come with premium price tags. Sure, there are incentives like tax breaks or state rebates, but not everyone knows how to claim them or even understands what they offer. If you're unsure about how much you could actually save with incentives, you're probably not jumping at the chance to spend more upfront. Then there's the insurance factor. EVs typically cost more to insure because of their higher value and repair costs. And let's not forget about registration fees, which in some places are even higher for EVs than for gas-powered cars. So even after you've bought the car, those extra costs start to pile up. Another sticking point is the charging infrastructure. Range anxiety is real. About half of Americans in a recent survey said they worry about finding a charging station when they need it. While charging networks are growing, they're not everywhere yet. If you live in a city or near a lot of chargers, this might not be a big deal. But for people in rural areas, it can be a deal breaker. And let's face it, most Americans are used to driving long distances, and waiting hours for a car to charge just doesn't cut it when gas stations are on every corner. Plus, if you can't charge at home, say you live in an apartment or don't have a garage, you're stuck relying on public chargers, which can be more expensive and less convenient. Installing a home charger is another cost that, for many, just adds to the burden. Now, we all know that over time, EVs can save you money on fuel, maintenance, and repairs. But here's the thing. Most people focus on the upfront cost. It's like when you're shopping for a phone. You know the monthly payments add up, but what sticks out is that first payment, right? It's easier to budget for small recurring costs than to fork over a big chunk of cash up front. That's exactly what's happening with EVs. Consumers are also creatures of habit. They've been driving gas cars for years, so the idea of spending more up front, even if they'll save in the long run, feels risky. And let's not forget, the used car market for EVs is still in its early days, so the options for getting a cheaper secondhand EV aren't as broad as they are for gas cars. One thing that could really change this perception is more affordable EV models. Right now, most of the EVs on the market are bigger, fancier, or loaded with features that not everyone needs. If automakers can introduce smaller, budget-friendly options, we might start seeing more people willing to make the switch. After all, not everyone needs an SUV or luxury sedan. But here's a silver lining. Interest is growing. According to the same survey, 40% of Americans are open to considering an EV for their next car. That's not a small number, and it tells us that the tide is slowly turning. And here's the kicker. 81% of current EV owners say they'll stick with electric for their next car. So once people make the switch, they seem to like what they get. Still, the fact remains that 72% of Americans think EVs are too costly. This isn't just about price tags, though. It's about mindset, infrastructure, and the long-term shift in how we approach transportation. We're in the middle of a transition, and it's going to take time for people to adjust. There are also economic factors to consider. With rising interest rates and inflation, financing a vehicle of any kind is more expensive than it was a few years ago. Add that to the confusion around EV incentives, and you can see why some buyers are hesitant. Many people are still trying to figure out if going electric is worth it. So, do Americans have a point in thinking EVs are overpriced? Yes and no. The upfront costs are still high for many, but prices are dropping. And as more models enter the market, especially affordable ones, we'll likely see a shift in how people view electric cars. But it's going to take time, and there's a lot of work to be done, both in lowering costs and in changing minds. If you're still on the fence about EVs, keep an eye on the market. Things are changing fast, and who knows, your next car just might be electric. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that like button if you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.